Hey, welcome to the Kid Ministry Collective Live show. We're glad to have you on uh, our new program. This is kicking off and rebooting our brand new format for the Kid Ministry Collective community. My name's Tom Bump, and I live in Cleveland, Ohio, Chagrin Falls, Ohio to be exact. And I'm one of the hosts on the KMC. And this is our initial launch of the reboot of this program. We used to be the KMC radio show, and now we're making this live video version as well as a podcast version available to the Kid Ministry community. And our goal is always to inspire, to encourage, and entertain those that watch. And so we're looking forward to having some great episodes with a lot of guests. And this first initial episode is just to introduce our team. Not everybody could make it to both our first episode and this episode tonight, but hopefully over the next couple of weeks we'll get everybody on board with us that is able to be a part of the KMC team. But for now, this is our group, and we've got three awesome guys in ministry, brothers in Christ tonight, that we're going to have a good time sitting around what we call the virtual round table and having some fun talking about kid ministry topics. So welcome to the show, Wayne.
Hey.
Welcome.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. And Philip Sexton's down in North Carolina. Welcome, Philip.
Thank you, Tom. It's going to be an awesome show. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And our East Coaster, Commander Bill Gunter, is over in Pennsylvania. How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing great, Tom. Good to be here.
Great. Awesome. Well, fellas, I wanted to get us started. I want the community to get to know you and who you are. And so, Wayne, why don't we start off with you and tell us a little bit about who you are, your ministry, and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Wayne Stocks. I am outside Columbus, Ohio, so I'm a couple hours south of Tom. I've never actually worked for a church. I've volunteered in children's ministry for years, doing virtually everything short of being on staff, teaching in small groups and Vacation Bible School and all that. And about 5 or 6 years ago, God started leading me down this path of ministering to children from divorced homes and homes without both parents and other types of modern families. So I've been doing that for the last 5 years, the last 3 years exclusively in terms of ministry anyhow. And so set up a website, run local groups for children of divorce. And so that's what I do. And so I'm just here tonight to prove that I have a face for radio. And I've got to tell you, I was watching this afternoon's episode with Sarah and Dave, and Sarah was the young one, and I was excited to get to be the young one on the show tonight. But I think Philip may have me beat.
Well, go for it, Philip.
Oh, all right, Tom. My name is Philip Sexton. I am a children's pastor at Bethel Church here in Goldsboro, North Carolina. I've been fortunate enough to be at Bethel Church here makes my 20th year here at the church. Not on staff for 20 years, but attending the church. I've been a children's pastor here for the past 7 or 8 years, almost 10 years. Probably been volunteering in youth ministry 5 or 6 years before that. So got deep roots here at Bethel Church. But I'm just excited to be here. Have a heart for children's ministry. I also have a heart to help young children's pastors that are coming on board in the ministry, and just be able to help them develop their leadership. So I'm really looking forward to this podcast, and I can't wait for the future episodes, and let's get it kicked off and rolling, and hopefully help some people develop in ministry.
Awesome. All right, Bill, you're up.
I am Bill Gunter, known as Commander Bill, as you can see by my little yellow guy, my iconic yellow guy. And the people who want to know Commander Bill, a lot of people, not everybody, and I've served in children's ministry. I am the old guy. My youngest is 27. So, but I served as a children's pastor at a church plant for almost 10 years, I think. Been involved in working a full-time job, volunteering most of the time, and now I'm volunteering at the church I'm attending for all kinds of stuff, teaching, whatever needs to be done in children's ministry.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, fortunately, I was the old guy in the first episode, so I'm kind of in the, well, I don't know. Well, but that's all right. Yeah, well, I've been in Chagrin Falls for 3 years now. I'm starting my third year here in the state of Ohio, and
Say that a little louder, Tom. Where you
yeah,
live now?
yeah, I can't do that. I mean, all right, I had to do it. You brought it out, so there it goes. There's the first Michigan guy. So you asked for it.
I'd show you my Buckeye gear, but then you might see that I haven't taken down all my Christmas stuff, and that would be embarrassing. So.
This is the Wayne Stocks torture device. When I want to go crazy, I just hold up this guy, and it's all good. All right. See, like I said, this show is going to be out of control. I just knew it.
Tom knew that when he invited me. Hey, we may as well just jump right in, right, Tom?
Yeah, so that's for sure.
I was wondering, from the collective genius here, what inspires you guys most about leading and serving in children's ministry?
Well, I'll jump in. I think what inspires me the most is, I mean, for me, what keeps me going is when you get to see a child take that step into faith, watching their eyes light up and seeing them really understand and grasp the spiritual truth that Jesus Christ is their Lord and Savior. That to me gets me going. And then, well, like Philip said, he and I, we talked a lot on the Infuse training time that we had together of the passion that we have of training up the next generation. And I realize that where I'm at in life after being in ministry for 28 plus years, it's time for me to start training up the next gen, helping them learn what I know and putting it into practice and experiencing that calling in their life like what I have. So I think that's what keeps me going. That's what inspires me is seeing children cross into faith and then seeing new people come into ministry and get that passion and that excitement to serve God. That floats my boat every time.
Hey, Tom, before we move on, can I just follow up with a question? I'm curious, as somebody who's been doing this a long time, how would you say what inspires you or what drives you has changed over time? Or has it not changed?
I don't think it's changed a whole lot. I mean, my calling to ministry was really clear from the very beginning. I knew that I wanted to serve God from the moment. It started in Detroit, Michigan. I met a little girl who lived within walking distance of a couple of good Bible teaching churches, but yet this little girl didn't know who Jesus was, didn't know who God is, I should say. And I mean, her eyes haunt me to this day. Even of just, she asked the question, "Who is God?" And fortunately I was able to share the gospel with her, and she came to saving faith on the front porch of this house that we were doing a Bible club in. But it was at that time that I knew God was calling me into ministry and to be a missionary here in the United States. And so my passion hasn't changed. It's the focus has changed a little bit. Where I used to be, where I felt very passionate of, I needed to be up front in front of the kids all the time, and I needed to be that children's pastor. To where now I still want to do that, but I also want to train up a whole lot more people to do what I do, because that multiplies the kingdom building. So for me, I'd say it hasn't changed. My passion hasn't changed. My focus has become more refined. I guess that's probably a better way of saying it.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Wayne, let me jump in there. I'm pretty much right along the lines with Tom, and I hate to try to sound like I'm just imitating or copying, but
You guys sound different, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's the North Carolina in me, I guess. But what inspires me is pretty much similar to what Tom says, and that's the fact that I love it when I see a child or a kid get it. I just love it when that light turns on, and when I see them. And then the second part of that is when they get it to the point that they want to start serving. I mean, that really it tickles me to see a young person, a fifth or sixth grader, or even a seventh grader in middle school from our youth program come back, and they hate to leave our kids ministries and go into the youth, so they end up signing up to volunteer as a middle schooler, and they just come back and serve, and that it gives you that warm and fuzzy feeling on the inside. But you also know, other than just it's a kind of a proud daddy moment. But other than that, it's just going, aha, they got it to the point that they want to come back and just serve and serve a ministry that they were developed in as well. And as far as my focus changing, I think that originally I was kind of like Tom. I like being up front. And I really was focused on having the best programming. And I know it wasn't about showing off our programming, but the theory behind it in my mind and in my heart was the better programming I had, the better the kids were going to get it. And so it was an honest and it was a pure motive as far as programming. But now I sit back and to me, the programming isn't as important as training up the leaders that are in front now. Instead, I've tried my best. I mean, it is hard. Granted, it's real hard to step back and let people do stuff that you're just so used to doing day in and day out, year after year. But now I get so tickled. I've got an awesome leadership team with me, but it's just, I mean, it's amazing to step back and watch them do it now and do it in different ways than I would do it, but do it better. So. I mean, those are the things that just inspires me to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's great.
And for me, it's the same kind of thing. I'm not going to repeat what these guys have been saying. It's seeing the kids connecting with God, and for me also, when a parent comes to me and says, "Hey, I'm looking for a Bible for my son. What do you recommend? I'm looking for this for my child. What do you recommend?" And to be able to have resources on hand, or to be able to talk to them about what's available for them to disciple their kids at home, to me that's awesome. And what keeps you going is, like Philip said, when you have kids that are growing and want to serve, that's huge. And when they come back and they let you know how God's using them, because I've always said, serving in children's ministry, a lot of times you don't see the results of what you're doing because the kids grow up and move away. They may be living for God, and you don't know. But every now and then, God gives them a small glimpse to say, "Hey, this is how I'm using you." And the kids come back and you see what God's doing. And it's that feel that keeps you going. That feel that keeps you going the whole time.
Yeah, it sounds like Bill's going in and out a little bit there.
Yeah.
But along those same lines, as I was thinking about this question, obviously, seeing a child accept Christ is the highlight, right? That's the moment.
Yes.
But what really inspires me is beyond that, obviously. But what I find inspiring is the moments, right? It's a lot like being a parent. There's some drudgery to it. It's a long process. You don't always see that result, but there are those moments, and you can sort of grab onto those moments. Whether it's a light bulb going on for a child, or with what I do with a lot of hurting kids. When you start to see them process that pain and start to get better, and you see a smile at the beginning of one of our support groups, instead of a child that's fighting back tears, you really latch on to those moments, and I think that's what keeps you going.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let me ask you guys. I'm real curious. What's one thing that you've learned recently that's changed or improved your leadership ministry? And in the ministry that you do, what's one thing, or maybe two, that has really impressed upon you and improved your leadership? I don't know who wants to go first, but
I'll jump in. I mean, because
all right.
if that's all right, I'll monopolize the conversation.
There you
Now,
go.
I'm a process guy, right? I'm good at coming up with a plan. I'm good at implementing a plan.
Mr. Spreadsheet.
Yeah, exactly. I'm good at doing spreadsheets. Sarcasm is my other spiritual gift. But the one thing that I always knew, but God is really impressing upon me, and I'm really learning, and learning only by the grace of God, is that no matter what we do and how we do it, it all boils down to relationship. So whether I'm trying to help a child through a difficult situation or present the gospel or model Christ, that all has to be done within the context of relationship. And ultimately, that's what these kids need, and that ultimately that's what's going to lead them to Christ.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I would agree, Wayne. Relationships are a thing that I'm jumping on the back of everybody else's answer, I guess. But relationships is something that we focused, even as a church, that we focused on a lot lately, and it does make a lot of difference. And another thing that that's really I've learned a lot lately, even though I'm not new to ministry, but that's looking at structure. I've been able to learn a lot from Jim Wideman on structure, and with his book Stretch. Yeah, there you go. I thought you were going to pull the book out, but instead I had Jim sitting at me. Yeah, there we go. So Jim would be proud of you having the bobblehead sitting right there in front of you. But yeah, structure. Looking at structure and seeing if seeing if our ministry, if the kids ministry is structured to be able to grow, or how that is, and that has a lot to do with empowering my leaders. And that's something that I wasn't strong at 2 years ago, but the stronger I get at it, I see the more my leadership has been able to just be passed down to those leaders underneath me, and it's really affected the ministry in whole, because I don't have to be present for everything to happen, and it happens anyway, and that's a good feeling to have.
Yeah, and I can jump back in. You made me think about something with the Jim bobblehead, Tom. It was something that you were telling me about last time we were together, that you guys had talked about it at Infuse, and that is really focusing less on the how and more on the why, and getting to results that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think we just talked briefly about it, but that's really stuck with me since you mentioned it. Because I think, based on my personality, focusing on the how is a lot easier than asking those why questions. And I think it's the why questions that lead to lasting change.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, I think one of, I think Philip would agree with this one. He can say amen. Is that one?
Amen.
That
you got pre-amen.
that Brother Jim would say the why is very important. Yes, see, he says yes. It's very important. Most people do focus on the how do you do this, how do you do that, and I noticed that when I'm around other kid ministry people, they ask a lot of how questions rather than the why, and I think, and Philip, I was going to ask you a question on your structure. Is why do you feel that structure is so important? Well, let me just ask you that. Why do you feel structure is so important?
Well, I think structure is important, Tom, just because everything builds from your structure, and that includes not only your programming, but also your leadership and your ability to grow. And if you don't have the right, it's like building a house. If you don't have the right foundation, I mean, things just they're going to get to a point and they're going to fall down. Then it's not going to be able to continue to grow. So having that structure in place, the right structure, is just to me. I found it to be one of those like aha moments where, if I get the structure right, then everything else I can make way for everything else. I don't have to have volunteers to fill these positions right now, but if I've got these positions and these job descriptions ready for when I do have the volunteers, then I can prepare for 5 or 6 or 800, 1,000 kids now if I only have 200. Because what happened, I had a coach. It wasn't Brother Jim, but I had another coach one time ask me, how many kids are you running? And I think we had, that famous question everybody asks you, well, how many kids are in your children's ministry? So, and I told him 100 at the time. I believe that was the number. And he said, well, what happens if you just have an awesome Sunday and 400 kids show up? Could you handle 400 kids? And I said, there's no way I could handle 400 kids. Well, then God's not going to give you those 400 kids until you're ready to receive them. And I went, wow, that what a revelation that was. So I've started planning my structure now, not just in programming, but also in developing leaders to be able to handle that. So if we did have, that huge day that everybody showed up, we would be ready to handle it, and our church would just, accept them with open arms and be able to go from that point on. So
yeah. And Bill, you have a unique perspective, because not only have you led a children's ministry, but now you're volunteering. And so I kind of want to, before I let you answer my question, since we're on this topic of structure and importance of asking why, what do you see as a volunteer now? What have you learned as a volunteer, seeing structure and thinking about the why you do things that you do? What have you learned in all that? What have you noticed the difference even from leading to being a volunteer?
See, it's an interesting situation, because that's my answer, is having been the decision maker, having been the children's pastor, and choosing curriculum, and having the flexibility to throw things out and do something different on a Sunday. I'm now in a position where I don't have that flexibility. And so I'm learning to lead from the middle. And I'm seeing things where I could have done things better as the children's pastor, where I failed or I neglected to do certain things. And I see sometimes where communication may be lacking from leadership and things of that nature. And that's where the structure comes in. It's indicated, and so I may go in on a Sunday morning and not know everything that's happening. Something else might be done which may or may not affect the lesson I've got prepared. But like I said, what I've learned recently is how to lead from the middle. And I've never been able to never really thought about leading from the middle. And because you can't come in and say, hey, we got to do it this way.
Right.
Because you're not in charge. And so it's how do you relate to people. And so you do things and kind of let them notice what you're doing. You do things with permission and see how they adapt. I mean, there have been things I initiated, people saw it throughout children's ministry or not. But things of that nature, just seeing a good idea, kind of running with it with permission, not going too rogue, and just setting the example in the middle while still being, while still following the authority above you that way and following the guidelines and whatnot.
Yeah, we'll have to put that in the notes that that would be a great show topic, is how to lead from the middle. Sometimes we as kids pastors get into a place where we may not have a strong leader above us. And how do you handle that? Got an interesting perspective on that one, but we'll save that for another show.
Yeah, another show. I don't, I wouldn't say hard to follow, but maybe they have a different ministry perspective.
Yeah.
Or they would do it differently than you would, and they're just adapting how they do it, or just trying to be persuasive in a good way.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so now back to our original question of what's one thing that you've recently learned that's improved your leadership from where you're at?
And again, like I said, for me, it's the humbling experience of being the person in control, being a volunteer. And I don't mean that to make them second-class citizen, but being a volunteer, not having those decision-making and be able to lead. I could tell you so. No, I mean, CPC was hard for me last year. Because I went, it was great, and on the entire drive back, I was thinking, on all this stuff, but I can't always apply it. But how can I apply it in the middle, so to speak, that way? So it's leading in the middle, and that's been a big eye-opener for me. And it's helped me to reach, to have real influence, I guess, both above and below.
Cool. Well, Tom, I've got a quick question for everyone because they say that readers are readers, and so since I'm amongst three great leaders right here with us, what two books have you guys read lately, or what two books are you reading now that have really just challenged you, whether it's in children's ministry, leadership, or even in your spiritual walk? Somebody just start off there and just tell us two books that you really have that's challenged you or has really influenced you.
Okay.
Well, I have a confession.
All right.
I have trouble reading books. Okay, I mean, I'm connected. I read books, but I'm going to steal one of Tom's. I do read books occasionally, but Stretch by Jim Lively.
Oh, you nasty man! You nasty.
I'll let Tom talk about that, but
go ahead, Bill.
I fall to the Stretch principle. In the church plant, one of the struggles I had was teaching people that you've got to have a structure in place if you're going to grow. You can't invite 100 kids in and then not be able to handle them. And that was one of the biggest battles, was teaching people to be prepared. At one time, I said I expected like a 30% growth in children's ministry, and people looked at me shocked. They said, could we handle that? And when they looked at me shocked and dismayed, like, that's unbelievable, that's inconceivable, I said, that's 3 kids. If we can't reach 3 kids, But other books I've got, so you have to be prepared. Stretch is a great book. You have to be prepared for that growth and plan, like Philip was saying also. I'm the Awana guy, so I'm going to plug Larry Fowler's books. Rock Solid Kids came out a long time ago. One of the books I read in a night. It just talks about children's ministry and just the impact and not being a stumbling block. And it's really had an impact how important children's ministry is. And you got to take it serious. You're a leader, and if you leave one of these kids astray, that's big consequences for it. And then Rock Solid Volunteers. We go through the book of Nehemiah and how Nehemiah handled Israel, rebuilding the wall and all the trials he had. So if you want to learn how to work with volunteers, Rock Solid Volunteers is the one. And the book I'm actually reading right now, I'm actually reading a book now, is Stephen Furtick's new book called Unqualified. Okay, I got an advanced reading copy, so I'm going through it, reading it, and just starting it's really impressive, just showing that, we always say God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. Nobody's perfect. And just how God uses people, how God uses broken people to do big things. So I'm reading this, look for a review on my blog coming up. It looks like it's a great book, but that's what I'm reading now because lots of times I feel unqualified.
I think we're going to have to impose a book limit because I'm going to go broke.
Hey, on that note, I tell people in my spare time I'm an accountant. The old joke is there are 3 types of accountants: those who can count and those who can't. And so I have 4 books that I'll share with you.
Wow.
And the first 2 are...
I had 4.
I'm going to have to go dip into my library behind me here in a minute.
I started to say, let me head to the bookshelf.
You may have some of these. The first 2, I sort of was trying to think a little bit out of the box. The book that I recommend to everybody who works in children's ministry, and the one that I sort of go back to over and over and over again, is the book Come Ye Children by Charles Spurgeon. It's an oldie but a goodie, if you will.
Wow. You're going way back.
I like way back.
And I'm the old guy.
I like the old guys. So, but Spurgeon's one of my favorites. He doesn't hold back. I think that's what I like about him. But in the book Come Ye Children is a solid defense of why you should work with kids. And just very insightful. It's a great book. The other one that I would recommend everybody have, it would be the one that I haven't read cover to cover, but that is Wayne Gruden's Systematic Theology. I think in children's ministry that we don't pay enough attention to theology. I think I always told people that I felt like I should be preparing to teach the kids as though I was preaching to the adults, and then figuring out how to make it understandable to them. And that involves doing some heavy lifting and doing some digging, and that is just a very good book for that. It's one of my favorites. I don't have my hard copy of those because I packed them away because I now have them on the iPad for ready reference. Now these two, though, I did find on my shelf. This is a great book. That is The Fabulous Reinvention of Sunday School by Aaron Reynolds. It's one of the first books I read when I started teaching. Challenging for a guy like me who's a bit ways and likes to do things a particular way. Really challenging in terms of different techniques and different things you can do, and ways that are effective in teaching kids. I go back to this one over and over. Still, I think I read it 15 years ago. Don't check the copy date on it, though, because it was only published 10. I'll feel like a liar. This was the other one. This is Lead the Way God Made You by Larry Schallenberger. I think it's still in print.
I think so. Group
Larry
does that one, right?
What's that?
Group Publishing does that one, right?
Yes. Larry was a children's pastor in Pennsylvania and then went on to be a lead pastor, and I'm not sure exactly what he's doing now, but this was a good book for me because I had this tendency to look at people leading a certain way and go, that's what a leader does, and then feel sort of inept when that's not my way. And this book is really good at helping you figure out what your way of leadership is, and then discussing how, once you figure that out, you need to surround yourself with the other types of leaders and people who are good at the other things where you aren't as good. And so to lead effectively, you need to have a good team that complements each other. So I tried to go quick since I went with 4 instead of 2.
Oh goodness! Well, I've got 2 books here in front of me, and I'm glad that I didn't put. I tell you, I must be in tune with God because I really decided to pick. I started to pick Stretch, and I said, no, I know somebody's going to have that one. And then Bill, I almost picked up my Rock Solid Kids book, but I ended up choosing the book right beside that one. And this one is Transforming Children into Spiritual Champions. Which is a really good book by George Barna. I don't know if you guys have read that book, but it really kind of tells us, where children stand in today's society, and then how we need to use every resource that we can to reach them while they're young, and also really stresses the importance of partnering with their parents in order to minister to their family and get their parents to begin the discipling process, because they should be the ones discipling their children at home, and we can help them as a church. Another one is a small one that I probably helps me more than it did you guys, but just because of my nature, I've never been diagnosed with ADD or anything like that, but I seem to go from project to project, and I'll switch gears in a heartbeat. But Jim Weidman wrote this book, Beat the Clock, and it's basically time management. And it has made a world of difference in the way that I lead, in the way that I do everything. And this wasn't on purpose to keep bringing up Brother Jim's name. Especially me and Tom did not get this together so that he could bring out his bobblehead. But Beat the Clock was a really good book that has just enabled me to structure my time so that I can get the most out of my work day without having to dig into my family time and my personal time. And one last book, I know we said 2, but here's my third one, is Undercover by John Bevere. That's a really good book that speaks about divine authority and how we can note the difference between divine authority and appointed authority, and how we can stay under the covering of God if we line ourselves up with the Word of God. So it's a great book to read if you guys haven't read it. Those are my 3.
Hey, since we haven't plugged all of Jim's books yet, I only did 4. On a non-ministry perspective, one of the best books I've ever read on parenting was Jim's book, and the title of it escapes me. I think it's like Connecting with Your Kids, or
Connecting with Your Kids.
Yeah, great book, and it's not a, obviously he's a children's minister, so there's some of that creeps in, but it's not a children's ministry book, it's a parenting book. And one of the things I really appreciate about Jim is not just his ministry knowledge, but you know the other things he brings to the table about parenting. And I assume in a couple of years he can write a book on grandparenting, so I'm going to have that on my shelf for many years from now.
Yeah, I bet he will. I bet he will.
So plugging grandparents, and Larry Fowler started the Legacy Coalition, which is teaching grandparents how to, disciple their grandkids, help the parents disciple their grandkids.
Yeah.
And he's got a national conference coming up.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting. Isn't Larry Fowler in charge of that? And
yep.
Yeah, so I think that's a great avenue. Again, that'll be a good topic to talk about, is how do we connect with grandparents, because they've got a lot more that are engaging their kids now. All right,
Tom, that might be something that we need to throw in the show notes, is some information about that, because I know us at our church, we're always looking at ways we can involve our older generation and our grandparents in with our family ministries and with our kids ministries. So I bet there'd be some people that would really want to see some information on that.
Yeah,
Man,
we'll have to.
I was just going to say, grandparents are key with the kids that I minister to, kids from divorced homes, and a bunch of them are living with grandparents, but grandparents become a key person that these kids can go connect with. And so as the church, if we can help grandparents to do that, it's great all around.
Yeah, I agree.
And being the only grandparent in the panel, it's near and dear to my heart.
That's good. All right, well, my picks...
I didn't know we left you any, Tom. I figured we talked about it.
Well,
out there at this point.
I highly recommend the Bible.
Oh, he's getting spiritual on us here.
Sunday school answer.
He pulled out the Jesus card.
He played the Jesus card.
I had to do it. You guys picked all my books.
That's pretty much all we left. That's 66 books, Tom. So wait a minute. It's late. Never mind.
I will. That's true. That's true. I did cheat, didn't I? This is a book that I really liked. It's called Grace Walk. Steve McVey. This is a great book on what grace is all about, and it really challenges. I mean, there's some things I didn't agree with completely, but there's some other things in there that just rocked me to my core about the Christian faith and the way we live and grace and God's forgiveness. It's a short read. I read this on my sabbatical a few years ago, and man, just fantastic read. Well, since Philip took Beat the Clock and Stretch, I'm like Philip, and I have squirrels going everywhere in my office, it seems like. This is one book that went along with Stretch that I read, was Getting Things Done. It's not a children's ministry thing by any means, but for people that are looking for something to help them get organized and to stay focused, I'm not 100% GTDer, as they say, but it has helped me think through a process and function, and with reading Beat the Clock, I mean, those two kind of go hand in hand, and it really has helped me quite a bit. But I do have a giveaway, since we are, and Philip and I get no kickbacks from Brother Jim, although we need to talk to him about that. So yeah. Brother Jim, if you happen to watch this, you can help brothers out. We'll take some more Infuse Plus or something.
Hey, right? Tom, and I'd just like to say, for the record, Bill's the one that took your stretch, not I.
Oh, that's right. That's right. All right, so I blame you. No, but none of us get in it. But we do really have great respect for Jim, and I have an extra copy of this, a downloadable copy. And so for the first person that watches our show and tweets at me or direct messages me on Twitter at PTBump, if you say, I want to stretch myself as a leader, so send me the stretch book. We gave one away in the first episode. Josh Denhart was the first one to respond to me on Twitter. So he watched the show this afternoon, and so he's got
Awesome.
a book coming his way. And so the first person that watches this episode and tweets to me at PT Bump and tells me that they want the stretch book, I have a downloadable copy for you for that. So that'll
Tom.
be that's a good one.
Hey Tom, can you hold up that second book again real quick? I noticed something that was interesting.
The Getting Things Done?
Yeah, the title is Getting Things Done, but down on the bottom there, doesn't it say all new edition for 2015?
Yeah, this is my older
Makes
copy.
me wonder why it didn't get done the first time.
I knew.
Yeah. Well, you know,
I've never read it, so I'm not disparaging the book.
I can answer that. The reason why it was updated was because the one thing that he didn't anticipate was how fast technology changed.
That's true, and that changes everything.
And so he stripped out a lot of the old references to PDAs and all those kind of things.
Pull out your Palm Pilot and sign on to AOL.
Yeah, he's taken a lot of that out of the book now and made it more neutral, technology neutral, so that people can relate to it a little bit longer, so he doesn't have to keep doing it over and over and over again. So.
Right.
While we're talking about like technology changes and things change and stuff, what's the most exciting? What are you most excited about in your ministry right now? You know, with things changing, what are you most excited about in your ministry right now? Tom, you go ahead.
Okay. What excites me the most right now? I think the focus where we're starting to be much more intentional about what we do, and I do see a lot more creativity. People are really thinking about what's the best way to reach my community, instead of just cookie cuttering everything. You know that, okay, well, this big mega church is doing this, so I'm going to take it and copy it exactly. People aren't doing that anymore, and I love that. I think it's really exciting to see people networking more, and that's what I love about the KMC community is the networking that goes on our Facebook page. A lot more people are asking some really great questions and thinking through issues. I think, to me, those are two big exciting things. The way people are being much more intentional, and the way that they're networking. I just think is way cool.
How about you, Philip?
Bill, I think one thing that I'm super excited about in our ministry is that we are starting to focus more on our community than anything else. That's kind of why, if I've got this glow on my forehead right now, it's not the glory of the Lord right now. It's sweat because we've been out playing dodgeball. We have a rec night on Thursday nights, and so we bring in a lot of our lower income neighborhoods, and they come to the church. They might not quite fit into our Wednesday night or our Sunday morning programming, but they come out and we feed them, and we do things and play games, and of course teach them life skills on Thursday nights, and we're making it we are strategically located so that we can do that, and we're finding avenues. God's just opening doors in ways that we can just kind of get into those neighborhoods and those communities, and I'm just super pumped about it because these are people that have souls that a lot of other ministries and a lot of other people kind of bypass, and I know that the Bible says to go out into all the world, but to do that you got to get on an airplane, and the way I look at it is to get to that airport, I've got to drive through these communities, and we're skipping by these communities now and going straight to the airport to get on the plane, and I'm a lover of missions work. I mean, I go to Haiti and Dominican Republic constantly throughout the year, but these neighborhoods are just being forgotten, and it really bothers me in my heart, and so we're just we're we're gearing up to really just be able to impact our community this year. And 2016 here at Bethel Church is just going to be awesome because of that. And so that's what I'm kind of really pumped about. I've got an awesome leadership team here at the church that can handle services and things like that as I kind of spearhead this movement into our neighborhood. So I'm sorry I kind of preached there a little bit, I guess, but
We'll get them.
yeah. So, but I'm just pumped about being able to do that. So.
But that's important. You can't see the forest through the trees. We're so focused on what's out beyond us that we forget about what's right next door. And so that's awesome that you're reaching, being intentional at reaching the neighborhood, the people right next door. Because so often, like you say, we walk out the front door, get in the car, and we drive out of the neighborhood, and we don't reach them.
Right. Yes.
And that's great. Wayne, how things going with you? What's stoking your fire these days?
At least on a macro level, again, the kids I'm working with are kids that often fall through the cracks, that stop going to church or never come to church. And so I'm excited to see more and more of things like Phillips Church is doing, or like Rachel Grohl is doing out in Pennsylvania, where they're taking church to these kids who otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity to hear the gospel, and just going out and building relationships and just being there for the kids, because a lot of ministry is just being present and being with those kids and forming a relationship with them. And I'm seeing a lot more of that going on now than when I started down this particular area of ministry. And then on the micro level, my ministry in particular, what I'm excited about is I finally have been doing it long enough that I'm getting hurting kids who are coming to me with questions, particularly over the internet. And these are kids who would never go to church, who wouldn't go to a support group. And so we set up I'mAChildOfDivorce.com, which obviously has a Christian point of view because I run it, but it's not an overtly Christian website. And so we get a lot of kids who might sort of shy away otherwise, who will come, get the help they need, and then hopefully start to formulate relationships with those kids and eventually lead them to what I think is the ultimate source of hope and healing. But I'm excited now. It's a bit discouraging we put a lot of work into it, and for a couple years there, didn't get a lot of reaction. But now it seems to be gaining a little traction, and it's getting to the right people. Part of my ministry is talking to people who work with kids, going to churches, going to these conferences, and talking to people who are in children's ministry. But I really want a large part of it to be working directly with these kids and helping the kids directly. And I feel like we're finally getting to that point. So that's exciting to me.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing an episode with you and Linda Ransom Jacobs. I want to talk to both of you guys since you really are, kind of experts in the field of dealing with kids and divorce, and so we will. That's going to be another future episode, just to give people some insight. We're gonna have you guys on as featured interviewees for that episode. Because we want you guys to share a lot more of your heartbeat for families with divorce and the kids of divorce, because there's a lot that the church can be doing, should be doing, that we're not doing and are not thinking about. So
yeah, absolutely.
Wayne, can you give us that that website again?
Yeah, I've got two. There's Divorce Ministry for Kids. That's the number 4. Kids.com. That is my ministry that focuses on helping people work with kids. And then out of that, we started one for children of divorce, and that is I'mAChildOfDivorce.com. Great,
thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll make sure those get into the show notes as soon as I can get them typed up. We'll have them in. So cool. Well, hey guys, we've got to pretty much get ready to wrap this up. I really appreciate you, my brothers, and I'm really excited about where God's going to take the KMC live program now and the podcast as we do that. Again, so that people know what we're doing is you can watch this via Google Hangout. You can watch it on our Kid Ministry Collective YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and search, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to it. The more subscribers we get, the more popular, and it keeps us up front, and we would love to have the community support us. So if you can subscribe to the Kid Ministry Collective right now, it'll take us a little bit to get the videos up there, so be patient, but we'll have those up there shortly. But you can go there, and then it won't be long and we'll have it up on iTunes as well as a podcast, and we hope that people will subscribe to that. So if they don't want to look at our beautiful faces and see the dancing Brother Jim bobblehead,
Hey, they're lost.
It would be. So anyway, we're looking forward to some future episodes. We'll be doing this the first and third Thursday of every month, alternating the afternoon program with the evening program. So you can be watching our Facebook page. Will have the schedule up there, as well as you can subscribe, like I say, on the Google Hangout. You can let us know that you want to subscribe to that, and we'll keep you updated on future episodes. So thanks for listening along to this first episode of the KMC Live, and we really appreciate every one of you that are participating in our community, and we hope that you've been encouraged, equipped, and even a little entertained during our episodes. We want you to remember Proverbs 27:17 says that as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And that's our goal, is to sharpen the Kid Ministry community. So God bless you all as you minister for the kingdom, and we'll see you again on the next KMC Live.